brings the Z in ABBA. You know what they say, Zaya Mia, here we go again. Zama Mia, Zazazia. Here we go again.
Hello and welcome to Raise a Glass, the podcast where we talk about the stories and storytellers that shape us. I am Hunter Danson.
And I am Eric Flintola.
And we have a first episode. It's a grab bag episode, which we will get into. We'll explain in a minute.
I'm so excited about this episode.
Yeah. I hope it. We'll see it. We might do it again if it goes well, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see how it translates.
Yeah, but first I got to know what's in your glass, Eric.
Hunter, I have something today that I know you have also drank with me before. I have Talisker single malt Scotch whiskey.
Oh, man.
Double matured in Amoroso cask wood, distilled in 2005, bottled in 2015. It is a 10-year single malt Scotch ale. Of course, I did try it, and then I put 3 drops of water in it, as we both know, to open up the flavor. Warms the belly and warms the soul.
Is that the one that it tastes like crashing, like a wave crashing on the rocks of a Scottish shore? Is that the one?
On the mossy covered rocks, yes.
Yes, on the moss, yeah.
So this is Talisker. I really enjoy this. It's not my favorite of Scotch, but from the rugged western shores of the Isle of Skye comes a richly flavored maritime malt with a warming afterglow, so easy to enjoy, yet, like Skye itself, so hard to leave. And it is my second to last glass of it. You'll see. There's barely any left.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to give myself a double, but I was like, I haven't had any whiskey in a very long while. I'm not going to do that. And I have a full Nalgene, or now about half a Nalgene of water. Hunter, what is in your glass today?
Well, I actually do have some alcohols in the house that are interesting, but I forgot that I was supposed to give blood today, so which I did. So I have a ginger beer.
Nice.
Summit ginger beer, sparkling, non-alcoholic. And you can taste it in your nose.
I felt the swallow when you swallowed. That was a very strong swallow.
I think that was the sound of the bottle when I tilted it up. It did one of those glug sounds. But yeah, it's good stuff. Pretty spicy, but well, Eric, I doubt that you actually want to pour any of that whiskey out of the glass. But I got to know, what are you raising that glass for and maybe tipping it out for this week?
Yeah, I am raising a glass to gardens. Maybe I've done this recently, but I love my garden. And my friend came over this past weekend and helped me build 3 new raised garden beds. That we then filled with compost. I filled with compost. I'm going to start planting veggies in them soon. We've got another garden bed I'm going to build. I already got the wood for. And then I'm going to build a strawberry tower. So I'm going to have like a dozen or more strawberries on a pretty, 4x4x4 space that has like a tubing in it for water and then dirt. So I can have vertical strawberries instead of horizontal. And I've gotten to know so many neighbors through gardening. My neighborhood's part of something called Blocks in Bloom, which is through an organization in our area. And it's focused on helping different neighbors in the city of Rochester get to know each other and beautify the front of their houses through gardening. And so, yeah, probably 20 different pots of plants for free this past week, and which probably counted altogether is probably about 100 different plants that I got. And so I love that. I am pouring one out though for the Central Canada wildfires. I don't know if you're experiencing it where you are.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got a lot of smoke, low air quality here, and you can see it in the sky. And so I'm praying that they're able to get those under control as much as possible, and that nobody loses their lives or nobody. I haven't really been watching anything about it, but it just has me. I don't know. I'm feeling about that.
Yeah. Reminds me of I lived in Beijing. The sky was just always gray, and it wasn't clouds. And then when we were in Boise, they had wildfires too, and it was all hazy.
Can you tell me what this then based off that experience? I've never seen something with an air quality index before.
Yeah.
What is good air quality?
I don't remember the exact numbers. I had an app that I would check every day to see whether I should wear a mask or not. I mean, really, I probably should have worn a mask every day, but it's the ppm, I think, parts per million in the air.
Okay. Oh, so you want something that's 0 is good?
Yeah. The lower the better.
Oh, okay. So we are now in red here.
Yep.
So green, yellow, orange, red, purple, maroon. We are at air quality index of 174, which is probably the highest air quality index I've ever experienced.
Yeah, that's pretty high.
It says with where we're at, some members of the general public may experience health effects. Members of sensitive groups may experience more serious health effects.
Yeah.
So not good.
Yeah, we're at 139 in Connecticut.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Okay. What about you, Hunter? What are you raising a glass and pouring one out for?
I am raising a glass to Jane Austen. My wife has been reading Sense and Sensibility, but she got a couple of movies out from the library, and we watched the miniseries of Pride and Prejudice with Colin Firth as Mr. Darcy.
Okay.
And so an older one, but it is really quite good. I had seen the Joe Wright, directed by Joe Wright, with Keira Knightley as Elizabeth Bennet. I've seen that one a few times. So first one, seeing the Colin Firth one, and it was good. You get more in it because it's a mini series and it's longer, so you get more dialogue, which Jane Austen's dialogue is just fantastic, so funny, so witty, and she has such clarity, and she's so deft at exposing hypocrisy and creating characters that are believable and fun to watch and fun to be around. Jane Austen's really like Virginia Woolf, said that other than Shakespeare, Jane Austen was probably the only other person who wrote whose poetry was devoid of bitterness, whose poetry was pure. So maybe someday we will get to do Jane Austen, because I do have some history with Pride and Prejudice. But
you'd go for Pride and Prejudice? Is that? Come on, gotta go deeper cut.
Yeah, I mean, there's Emma, and there's. I mean, of course, but I have some personal history with Pride and Prejudice. I read it in 7th grade. It's my first exposure. Yep.
Okay.
in Mrs. Calendar's humanities class?
Northanger Abbey. That's what I did relatively, I guess, a year ago. Not a big fan, honestly. That was not a great one for me. A little bit different story than some others. But yes, I'd love to do Jane Austen at some point, and I'll stop there. What are you pouring one out for?
I'm pouring one out for car stuff.
Ugh, I'm with you on that.
Oh,
is that a timing belt?
It's a serpentine belt.
Mm.
I have to replace this serpentine belt in our van, which is really long overdue, but I've never done it, but you can learn a lot from the internet, and hopefully, I'll only have to spend $16 on this belt rather than, $150 to get it at a mechanic. But cars are just money pits. They start depreciating the moment you buy them, and it's always just like playing roulette. Sometimes you go out and you start to hear a weird noise or something, and you bring it into the shop and you play roulette. It's like, how much money am I going to lose now? You never win money. You just always lose it.
A good mechanic means a lot.
Sure. Yeah.
But you're right. I also hate cars. I don't even like driving. I don't like anything to do with cars. I understand the importance of them. And I love that people love cars. I am not one of said people.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. I loved the movie Gran Torino when I was younger, and I thought I wanted to have a Gran Torino. But so I can understand the love for the old cars and the aesthetic, but taking care of a car is just, you got to have a lot of money to have that hobby.
Well, Hunter, let's get into this episode. What in the world were you thinking when you said let's do a grab bag episode? What does that mean? Tell me.
So you had mentioned that you had a lot of like small things that you wanted to talk about or could talk about, but wouldn't fit in like a potluck or doing a full episode. And so I thought, why don't we try and put all of those things into one episode, and it can be a grab bag episode. And to make it more fun, we can put a bunch of stuff in a hat. We each have a hat. I have my son's fire hat, plastic fireman hat. Nice.
I've got my gardening hat that I absolutely love. Got this on my honeymoon, actually.
Yeah.
In Mexico.
So we have a bunch of stuff in a hat, and we're going to pick them out. They're just little pieces of art that have shaped us, stories that have shaped us.
Or big pieces that have shaped us in small ways.
Yeah. Yeah, lots of all kind. I have games, music, TV shows, books. So variety. So we're gonna see how it goes. We don't know how many we're gonna do. We're gonna see how long. We can talk for a long time, as you know.
What?
But who wants to go first? Should we flip a coin or something?
Do you have a coin on you? I have a.
Actually, I do. Yeah.
Do you? Okay.
On my desk.
Okay, I'll call it in the air.
On my Principles of Neuroscience text. My wife's textbook.
Okay.
Okay.
Tails never fails.
It is tails.
Woo! No, so not like the Bills overtime loss to Kansas City. Okay, here we go. Ready? I think I've got like 13 or 14 in here. I'm just going to grab one. Here it is. And it is important to say neither of us know what's in the other person, so it's possible we have overlaps. Probably
It's
not.
possible.
Oh, okay. This is. So I just grabbed the name of a book that I actually read in the last year. This is going to be a nice short one for me because it's impacted me, but not hugely. So I grabbed the book called Everything Sad is Untrue by Daniel Nayeri, narrated by Daniel Nayeri. And this is the story, the biography, some sorts, of Daniel Nayeri, who was born in Iran and spent some years as a refugee before immigrating to Oklahoma at the age of 8 with his mother and sister. It is told as an Iranian story with that type of storytelling. So think more of like Scheherazad's 1001 Nights.
Right.
And so it was a very different type of storytelling for me to listen to as a Westerner, which is part of the way it shaped me. I enjoyed it. I didn't love it. I had it recommended to me. And it's a story about his family and how they became refugees and their experience resettling in the United States. For him, part of his story or their family's story is they went with his dad. They had an amazing house in Iran. They went to England for a time to be with family. His dad at that time actually was a drug dealer and smuggled drugs in the suitcases. Also, like, very wealthy, just a very likable person. Like everybody loves his dad. And while there, his sister, they were there for a while, in rebellion as a young kid, told her mom that she was a Christian. Which, if you're Christian in Iran, it's a very dangerous thing.
Yeah.
And it was at that time. And so her mom's like, no, you can't be Christian. But then through a series of events, his mom and his sister's mom actually became a Christian, went back to Iran, was part of an underground church there at a time where people were being disappeared if they were Christian. I don't know if that's still the case. Actually, him and his sister and his mom ended up as refugees because of his mom's faith, and ended up in Oklahoma in this really backwater area. And it's a very hard story to listen to, but it's also like somewhat encouraging and challenging at different times, and very funny. Tells the story of Iran is like where they lived, and their house was just a beautiful, like, palatial. Like the most expensive thing in all their houses was their rugs. Like that was more expensive than anything else in the house. Maybe sometimes even more expensive than the house. And he talks about like visiting a prince, and then he talks about being in the United States. And one of the big differences is in Iran they squat to go to the bathroom, and then they use a bidet. Yeah. So it's actually cleaner process and probably better for your body than sitting on the toilet. And so when they got to Oklahoma, they put a couple sets of bricks next to their toilet so they would continue to squat to the bathroom. And he tells the story of the first time spending the night at a friend's house where he had to poop, and it was an American friend, and he didn't know how to poop as a kid sitting on a toilet. And it's a very funny scene. And his dad comes to visit at one point, and just the experience of that. And I think it was one of the first stories that I was reading from the voice of a refugee, from a group of people that I know nothing about. I know nothing about living in Iran, and about what their experience is. So that's what Everything Sad is Untrue is. What questions do you have on it? What thoughts do you have?
Why is everything sad untrue?
It's a great question. I don't know if I have the answer to it from the book. I think one of the pieces that was very true for him is when Americans talked about Iran, they assumed everything was bad and that he wanted to live in the United States and that life in the United States was better. But across the board, the answer to that is no. They had a better life. They were on more family. They were at a much higher socioeconomic class. Much more opportunities in some ways there than in the United States, living in a apartment building. His mom seems like the type of person that everybody should be friends with. She just seemed the way he talks about his mom in this is just amazing. She is by far the strongest person in his life ever. And he talks about it. It's unclear whether or not he shares a faith with his mom. I think maybe not. But the way he talks about his mom's faith, there's no doubt in his mind that he knows for a fact that her faith is real. And that it keeps her going. And she was like working 2 jobs, 3 jobs at a minimum to pay for things, in a relationship with an abusive person, cooking and caring for their family all at the same time.
Are you talking about the difference between living in Iran for them and living in the U.S.? Reminded me of Hasna and her family.
Yep. I ultimately enjoy After the Last Border significantly more than Everything Sad Isn't True. But it's also written for me.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? It's written in a way that I would understand versus Everything Sad Isn't True is not in the same way. And there's something that, as I was listening to it, and I listened to Everything Sad Is Untrue before After the Last Border. And so it was earlier on in my journey to understand the experience of a refugee and what it looks like to be a good neighbor.
Thank you.
Yeah. What do you got?
Let's see what I got. Well, a much less serious book, a serious piece of media. I have NCIS.
Okay. I mean, it's as far as shows go, it's more serious than most.
Oh, sure. Not compared to Everything Sad Is Untrue. But NCIS, if you had asked me sometime around, I don't know, like high school probably through like sophomore year of college, what my favorite TV show was, I probably would have said NCIS.
Okay.
And it's no longer my favorite TV show. I do have fond memories of it and the characters. But NCIS stands for the Naval Criminal Investigative something.
Services?
The Naval Criminal Investigative Service. And I'm going to qualify that it is only the original NCIS.
I was about to ask.
Not any of the NCIS Miamis or whatever's, New Orleans. The original NCIS with Mark Harmon as Gibbs. And who are the other long running? There's DiNozzo. There's Abby. Pauly Perrette as Abby. Michael Weatherly as DiNozzo. Sean Murray as McGee. And I think NCIS is still Is it still
They
going?
just had season 20.
Yeah. Okay. And it was
It's the
renewed for a
first,
21st season.
but season 20 is the first without Gibbs.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
I
and
was going to ask you what season you've watched up to.
I think I've seen through like 5 or 6 maybe. It used to come on TV, so I feel like I might have seen them out of date. But then you, Eric, you actually gifted me a set of NCIS DVDs. Do you remember that?
I do. Were they from me or from Melanie?
I'm pretty sure they were from you.
Okay. How many did I give you?
It was like 6 or 7 or so. It was a lot.
Okay.
I don't think I've watched all of them, but that I sort of refreshed my memory because I'd seen them sort of disjointedly. So I started at season 1 when you have Caitlin, and then she dies. Yeah,
that was so crazy. I did not see that coming.
Yeah, that was kind of a twist. And then they had replaced her with Ziva. It was great. Like, and like NCIS is just the show. When I didn't know what to watch and I wanted to watch something, when I was folding the laundry or something and like just wanted to not think for a little while, I'd put on NCIS. And for me, NCIS was really kind of similar to Star Trek. It's about the characters. It's about Gibbs and DiNozzo and McGee and everybody. And, I think NCIS really does a lot of, at least when it was first coming out, I think it does a lot of like pretty good stuff with the way it is shot, the camera angles and things. It's really been a while since I watched it, but I remember watching some of the behind the scenes stuff. And they said, they were really trying to innovate in the cinematography and kind of highlight the characters. But it also has some like really ridiculous. It's kind of a little bit silly looking back. Like there's the hacking scene that's pretty famous now where somebody is hacking into Abby's computer. She's the forensic specialist. She has so much character, and someone's hacking into her computer and she's like furiously typing on the keyboard. Like all these crazy things are going on the computer screen. And then McGee, who is coded as a nerd, jumps on the keyboard next to her and starts typing away too. So they're typing on the same keyboard, which is just ridiculous.
Not real. Not
real at all. Like hacking is not like that at all. But it's NCIS and Gibbs. I really liked Gibbs. I started drinking my coffee black because of Gibbs.
Did you start building a boat in your basement?
No, not a boat in my basement. No. Thought about it. But I still drink my coffee black. I actually came to like it black, but
oh, Hunter.
Yeah, I mean, I would still go back and watch it. But I don't think I could. I feel like once like Ziva leaves or DiNozzo leaves, I don't think I've watched through when they left. But once they leave, I don't think I could do it because that's what NCIS is for me, is that crew.
And so is not Ducky, but I think the guy who was with Ducky, who was Ducky's assistant.
The medical assistant, autopsy assistant. Yeah.
Palmer. I think
Palmer. Yeah.
I think Palmer's still on it. Oh, still is Ducky? My goodness. This show is just still going on.
Yeah.
Huh. How is Ducky I guess I did not know that actor is still around. It's mean, but 20 seasons is a long time. feel like
It is.
there can't be too many shows that have gone longer. I heard Grey's Anatomy since its last season now. Finally, Melanie and I started watching that when we were pregnant with our first. That was one of the shows we would watch, and then when he was born, we'd watch it for a bit. I think we made it through the first three seasons or so. Before,
Yeah.
We definitely got to Ziva. We got at least a season with her.
Mm-hmm.
I was very shocked with the Caitlyn scene.
Yeah, that was pretty. It was pretty shocking, I think.
It was gut wrenching. I was like, "What in the world?"
Yeah,
that has to be one of the better twists that's happened in a TV show. Unexpected.
Yeah.
NCIS is the most gruesome I can get in a show.
Yeah.
I can't do much more than that.
Yeah,
but
there's always
I did enjoy the character development.
Yeah, there's always there's like recurring jokes that happen. One of them is someone will bring Gibbs coffee and he'll be like, "That's not coffee." He tastes it, spits it out. Another one is people getting grossed out during autopsies. Happens all the time. I'm sure there's many more.
Abby's drink.
Oh yeah,
slushy drink.
Right. Yeah.
Big gulp. Really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Denozo throwing things or things being thrown at Denozo.
Yeah.
McGee being made fun of.
Yeah. Denozo making fun of McGee. Yeah.
My turn?
All right. Yeah.
It's a good one, Hunter. I enjoyed it. Okay. What do we got? Oh. I got a special one here. I'm really excited about this. So one of the TV shows, actually, do you know what the longest running sci-fi show is?
The longest running sci-fi show?
Mm-hmm.
To Battlestar Galactica?
Doctor Who.
Doctor Who. Oh, should have known that.
You should have got that. Yeah. So I remember when I first started watching Doctor Who, was with the ninth Doctor. Christopher Eccleston. I think he's the ninth Doctor, and the 10th was none other than David Tennant. And I'm not going to bring together all of Doctor Who because I think that could be an entire episode. But I brought
more than one episode.
I brought my favorite or one of my favorite episodes. And I'm not a scary things person. If you have not seen this episode of Doctor Who, you need to watch it. Let me make sure I can get the actual title of it because I wrote it down based off what I remember. I think it's called Vincent and the Doctor. Have you seen this episode, Hunter?
Does it have to do with Vincent van Gogh?
This is the story where Doctor Who goes and visits Vincent van Gogh. It is absolutely amazing. Like there's no... So in this episode, Doctor Who, played by... this is actually by Doctor Who, played by Matt Smith. My goodness, I got that wrong. Matt Smith and Karen Gillan, who plays Amy Pond, go back in time to meet Van Gogh and experience him plagued by invisible creatures known as the Crephaeus, which only Van Gogh can see. And like the idea is that's part of like what's leading to the way he draws things, kind of like the impressionist aspect of it. And they defeat it, and their hope in defeating them is that he wouldn't die by suicide, right? And of course, they don't end up changing history. But the most beautiful moment in this episode, Doctor Who and Amy Pond bring Van Gogh into the future to the was it Musée d'Orsay? And Van Gogh is there on a tour led by Bill Nye, the actor, not the scientist, about the legacy and beauty of Van Gogh's work. Because one of the big pieces of Van Gogh that is historically true is that he was not appreciated in his lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
He barely sold anything. I think people thought his art wasn't that impressive. And of course, he's gone on to be one of the most famous artists in the history of humanity. And seeing the actor, and I didn't know him, Tony Curran, who plays Van Gogh, seeing his reaction and like the tears that are right there. It is an episode that will be heartbreaking and absolutely heartwarming simultaneously. And they film it in such a way that you see the art brought to life, and you get to see the art, like see the scenery, like Starry Nights and the cafe and the bedroom. Whatever, I don't know all the names of these things, through the eyes of Van Gogh. And it's been a few years since I've seen it, but it still comes back to my mind as just part of the reason why I love Van Gogh. And part of the beauty, I think, that a TV show, especially even a sci-fi show, can do in speaking to the soul.
I got to go to a Van Gogh exhibit. It was kind of like a traveling exhibit, I think. But they had the big gimmick was they had this whole room filled with 3D projectors. Well, not 3D, just filled with projectors. Really big room, like a gym size. And they had this sort of, they would project his paintings all over the walls of the room and on the floors. And it was just kind of like this, they had music. It was this sort of narrated presentation. It had excerpts from like his diaries and his letters. And it was just this big presentation of his different phases of his art, the sunflowers. There was the phases where he was influenced by like Japanese art. So there were like, trees and flowers. Yeah, just all the different phases of Van Gogh and stuff. And it was pretty cool, but they also had, his paintings up. I don't think they were real ones, but they were like really high def printed ones, so that you got a lot of detail, and it felt like looking at a real painting. And I cried when I was looking at a painting.
That makes sense. I cried during this episode. Have you seen this episode, Hunter?
No, I haven't watched much Doctor Who.
The entire premise of Doctor Who is the Doctor goes back in time with a companion or two companions and into the future and experiences life. And there's always some type of alien behind the scenes that is kind of creating what is going on, and that the Doctor is there to save the day. This episode, I think, was probably good enough to win an Emmy. I don't think it did, but it is worth it. Even if you don't like Doctor Who, I've never heard of it, or indifferent, like check out this episode. It won't disappoint.
All right. Thank you. What do I got? Okay. I have the album Zaba by Glass Animals.
Okay.
Have you listened to Glass Animals before, Eric?
Not knowingly.
I don't think they have much that's famous. They have there's Zaba, there's How to Be a Human Being is the other album. I think their newest one is Dreamland. But my favorite is Zaba. I do like How to Be a Human Being. Wasn't crazy about Dreamland, but Zaba is like, it's a very strange concept album. I'm not even sure what every song is about, but everything it's like set in a jungle. Everything has this sort of like animal theme to it. All the lyrics are about like animals and things, like a black mambo and cocoa hooves. I'm gonna pull up the toes, Walla Walla. It's pretty. Glass Animals is they have a very unique sound. There's a lot of like synth. I wouldn't call what the guy does singing. It's more like lyrical whispering almost. It's singing, but it's like you wouldn't be able to hear him if we didn't have good microphones. Which is that's what he's doing. He's using the tools that he has. But I really like the sound of Zaba, and like I'll just go through periods where I just like listen to Zaba for a while, over and over. Kind of similar to what I do with The Heat by Need to Breathe, or Trench.
I've been listening to Need to Breathe recently.
Oh, nice. Me too, actually. But I don't know. I think I'll highlight one song and then we can go to you. But that's the song Black Mambo. It's the second track. And it's sort of like this dialogue. And I can't say exactly who the characters are. But the first verse is like, "What'll it be now, Mr. Mole?" Whispers Sloth in curls of smoke. "Take a back seat or play Pharaoh. Dance with me and shake your bones." And the whole repeat is like, "Slow down, it's a science. He's been waiting to bring you down. Snake-eyed with a sly smile. He can hold you and shake you, child." And so it's just like the sloth feels very menacing as he's talking to Mr. Mole. And it just feels like this. It's like it almost feels like a cautionary song, like slow down, be careful about this guy. He can hold you and shake you. And there's a lot of like kind of nice imagery going on with the lyrics. Leopards lays each on plush pillows, slender capes of red and chrome. Paperback dreams in their deep doze twitch their toes to Black Mambo. And it's a vibe. Good running music too. I run to Zaba as well, but that's pretty much it. I wouldn't say it's much more profound than that, but
how did you get connected with?
Well, TJ actually recommended Glass Animals to me.
Okay.
And I listened to How to Be a Human Being, and Zaba was what they had out. And I really like Zaba. I listen to it pretty frequently.
Okay.
Yeah.
You never cease to amaze me, Hunter. That actually reminded me of another one that I wanted to add to my hat too.
Oh, okay.
I made sure to get a pair of scissors so I could add it to my group. Okay.
All right.
Here we go. What do we got? So I also got a band, but it's also a book. This is not a group that has shaped me significantly. It is a group that I've been learning about because I know they've shaped the world. And I took quite a few hours to listen to it. It is a band that I know you're not a great fan of, but I was jamming with Caleb, my son, to it today. I took over 20 hours to listen to this. And it is Surrender by Bono, read by Bono of the band U2. They're of a different generation than us, right? They're very much a few decades ahead above us or older than us. And I read this book recently. It's a pretty recent book on the recommendation of a friend. And knowing a bit about U2. But not knowing too much. And it is a book by Bono that walks through the history of U2. It's kind of a biography or an autobiography of the band.
Oh, yeah. Through
40 songs. They kind of focus on like 40 of their top songs. And he tells, the stories he tells are just, stories that they're the people that they're friends with, the way they interact with people is just that of they're a very long-standing rock band that has stayed together and like grown in their relationship with each other. Well, so many other bands have started and floundered and died along the way, which is a very unique thing in and of itself to have a band, especially a band that became as big as U2, stay together. And I was just struck by their story, and we've talked about them kind of time a little bit here and there. I remember you kind of gave a little bit of a cutting jab at them at one point on an episode after we had talked about them before the episode started. You were calling them out for being bad Christian music or something like that.
Oh, I didn't say that.
Yeah, that's how I remember it. And I think you're wrong there. But this book pointed me back to the Joshua Tree, which I think is such a good album. Do you know Joshua Tree?
Yeah.
I mean, I still haven't found what I'm looking for. With or Without You are two of the big pieces from it. Obviously, two of their biggest songs.
Right.
And I was struck by Bono's openness and the way that he has always had it in his heart to not be about himself, even as he understands and calls out himself for being selfishness and having a huge ego. And I think that's what it's like to be human. He talks about his faith in it. It talks about the projects he's been part of. One of the ones that I just think is absolutely incredible that he was able to be part of was Jubilee 2000. Do you remember that? Or do you know anything about Jubilee 2000?
I don't think so.
It is based off the idea of Jubilee in the Bible, that on the every 50 years, the seventh year, all of Israel would let the fields lay fallow as a year of Jubilee, of celebration, forgiveness of debts, kind of rewiping the slate.
Yeah. And
the idea was that in 2000, there'd be an international coalition movement in over 40 countries that called for cancellation of third world debt by the year 2000. And he was a big part of it. Bono was, in getting people involved, meeting with the Pope and politicians and working across the aisle in politics in the United States, even though he's from Ireland. And I think it looks like their aim was to wipe $90 billion of debt from the lowest, from developing or undeveloped countries. And they at least, I can't remember, I don't know how much specifically, but they came close to that, if not hitting that goal. Cancellation of more than $100 billion of debt owed by the 35 of the world's developing countries. Isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
And like he just talks about, I mean, he's a huge part of fighting against extreme poverty and HIV and AIDS. He's met his wife before they really were, he was ever in a band. I was just really impressed with it. And maybe one way that this has shaped me, my family for a few minutes, it felt like a few weeks in high school, I attended a church where we accidentally became members. Accidentally. It was not purposeful. But it's a different story. One of the weeks that we were there, there was a song played that I had never heard of before, and it's actually I've started, I've hearted it in my music. It is not one of their well-known songs, I don't think. It's a song called "Magnificent." It's a song I'd point people to. It's the primary lyrics are magnificent. I was born to be with you in this space and time. After that, and ever after, I haven't had a clue. Only to break rhyme, this foolishness can leave a heart black and blue. Oh, it goes on a little bit, but it keeps coming back to this statement of magnificent. Only love can leave such a mark, but only love can heal such a scar. Justified till we die, you and I will magnify. Oh, magnificent. And I just heard this, and it felt like, and I think U2's best songs feel like this to me. They just feel like cries to God. And I think that even Bono would agree that not all of their songs are like that. Not all of them hit the mark. I think he says that something in that. He's like, we're a band with a lot of fine songs and a few great songs. And I think some of their songs just really speak that out. And I got to learn more about the Edge and the other members of the band. And, we've talked about the Edge and how the Edge is the Edge. And Bono's very clear that there would be no U2 without the Edge. As far as musically, he was, at least at a younger age, far leaps above them all. But yeah, Surrender by Bono. It's a long read. It's fun. There were many times in the middle of it that I was like, "Hey, Melanie, did you know that? Did you know Bono did? Do you know he had a?" And not too many of them have stuck with me, but it also, reading that book pushed me back into watching Super Bowl halftime shows. Because they're really famously in 2001 did the Super Bowl halftime show.
Right.
I guess it was in 2002, but it was for the 2001 season. And the way in which an Irish band was the perfect group to unify and communicate the pain and the resiliency of America post 9/11. That's a concert that's a halftime show that I think anybody should watch. It'll give you chills. It's among the best halftime shows that I think there have ever been.
Okay. Maybe sometime we'll have a more in-depth discussion about U2, in which I can clarify that I don't have anything. It's like a Taylor Swift situation where I don't like U2 that much, and I feel like everyone else loves them, and so it makes me feel like people think that I hate them, which I don't. I just don't really. I'm just not crazy about their music. I mean, I like Surrender and With or Without You, and you know those great songs that Bono says they have. But I'm not. It's just taste.
I'm not a big U2 fan. I can't name probably a tenth of their songs, but the songs that I know I enjoy. A couple of them I skip through, but
yeah.
So,
all right. So you have done 3, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
This is my 3rd. Oh. I shouldn't have put it in the hat if I didn't want to talk about it.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, you could put it back and choose another one. I don't care.
It's Gran Torino.
What do you get? Gran
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Well, I suppose it's thematic. Because I mentioned it earlier when I was pouring one out for Cars. Similar to NCIS, if you had asked me, up to about like sophomore, junior year of college, I would have said that my favorite movie is Gran Torino.
Okay, I see it.
And I still like it. It's a Clint Eastwood movie.
It's a very good Clint Eastwood movie. It might be one of his best. It's one of his best.
Yes,
it's probably the best one he's done as an old man.
Yeah, it's a good movie. Clint Eastwood is a disgruntled old man. He's a Korean War veteran. Was a Ford factory worker, and he is recently widowed after his wife passes after a very long and presumably happy marriage. So he's pretty sad, but he has a nice car. He has a Gran Torino. He was a Ford factory worker. And I guess he got this car after his retirement, and it's kind of like his prized possession. Next door to him are Hmong immigrants. And there's a young boy. I think he's like 18 or 19 or something. And he is kind of coerced into this Hmong gang by his cousin. And in order to initiate him into this gang, they want him to steal the Gran Torino, which he tries to do and fails. And Walt, who is Clint Eastwood's character, he's kind of racist. I mean, it's not.
He is.
Yeah, he is. And
that's
there's
how it starts.
Yeah, there's various points where he's the famous line is "Get off my lawn," which I think he says like earlier in the movie, and then at one point later on in the movie, the gang members, I think, are like out on his lawn, and he comes out with his old M1 Garand from the Korean War, and he says, "Get off my lawn." And you see, it's been a long time. I've watched it quite a few times, but not in a while.
I wonder how this movie would sit now.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, I don't know how well it's aged.
But the general premise is that his heart is changing.
Yeah.
Right. It's not that he's the savior of the situation, even though it does have a white savior complex vibe.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think what happens is Tao, who is the boy next door who tries to steal the Gran Torino, it's sort of like to pay Walt back. He works for Walt, and Walt teaches him like construction and things. Mm-hmm. And they both sort of gain like a mutual respect for one another. And the climax of the movie, Tao's sister, who's a little bit older than him, she is kidnapped by the gang members. And
that whole thing.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Yeah, so what happens is the gang assaults Tao on the way home from work, and then Walt sort of visits their house and gives them a warning. And to retaliate, content warning here, that they rape Sue and they almost kill Tao in a drive-by shooting. And the community refuses to report their crimes out of fear. And so Tao is outraged, and he goes and tells Walt. And Walt, if you've seen a lot of Clint Eastwood movies, as I have, you figure out how this is going to go. You know, Clint Eastwood, he goes to the barber shop. He gets a nice shave. He goes to the store, the tailor, and he gets a nice tailored suit. And it makes him. He goes to the father, and he makes a confession. So you think, okay, so Clint Eastwood is going to, go and be Dirty Harry or one of the outlaws or whatever, because he carries around a revolver in the movie, and it's very clear that he has lots of guns, and so you think he's going to go and get revenge on this gang, and what happens is he ends up sort of tricking Tao and locking him in the basement because Tao wants to go. Tao wants to get revenge for his sister. And so Walt goes and he does this thing that he did earlier in the movie where he takes out finger guns, and he's out in front of the gang's house, and he goes bam, bam, bam at all of the gang members. And earlier in the movie, he had reached into his truck and pulled out an actual gun when that had happened earlier and scared them off. And so he does the same. He reaches into his jacket, and they all shoot him because they think that he's going to pull a gun, and he dies. And the police come and sort of, they arrest the gang members. And so he sort of does get revenge, but not by killing the gang members. And he also kind of prevents Tao from committing a crime. And going down the path. Right. So that's the movie. I liked it because I had seen a lot of Clint Eastwood movies, and it was an unexpected ending to a Clint Eastwood movie. At the time, I liked Gibbs a lot. And that's sort of like tough grizzled way of being I identified with and I admired. And, you know, I still am kind of a curmudgeon.
Okay.
But I like to think I'm, you know, curmudgeonly about the right things now. More so, I still have some things that I know are kind of ridiculous, but that was what I connected to Gran Torino with, was Clint Eastwood's performance. And I don't really know how I feel about it now. I mean, it's not my favorite movie because, like you said, it is kind of like a white savior story. Almost literally, because he sacrifices himself.
Yeah, no, it is. It is.
Yeah, definitely it is. But it's better than a lot of his other movies. I'll say that.
I also haven't seen this in so long, but I remember watching it and loving it.
Yeah,
really being impressed by it and kind of shaken a little bit. It was one of the first ones I think my family had on Blu-ray.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
That ages it.
Yeah, I had the soundtrack. Clint Eastwood sings at the end.
My Gran Torino.
Yeah. But yeah, I still like it. I think I would like it if I watched it, but not quite as much as I did. Just because of the white savior thing, it's kind of hard to support it.
It's also just like glorifying the Old West and cowboys. It's just I'm past that. I think our society's past that too.
Yeah, I mean, there's a show called Yellowstone, I think, that is still going. Which, like, it's not that it's bad.
Kevin Costner.
Yeah, but like, there's a lot of untold stories about the West in America that I think, you know, we've told the cowboy stories enough. It's time to tell the other stories. But you know, Gran Torino is not a Western.
Yeah. Okay, my last one for tonight, and I'm glad I got this one. So I brought some show and tell items for this. You know, I love my garden, and a storyteller that I've come to enjoy quite a bit, and a set of stories is from the Whole Seed Catalog by Baker's Creek. Baker's Creek started about 25 years ago, actually almost exactly 25 years ago, as a rare seed heirloom variety catalog. In a little tiny little place, and oh my goodness, whereabouts are they located? In Missouri. And they have just become the largest heirloom seed company, at least in the United States, if not North America.
Wow.
Every year they put forth a regular whole seed catalog, like this one. It's a smaller one. But it's just like the pictures of these heirloom varieties that you can purchase. They're stunning. And like they tell histories of them. Let me just find the tomatoes. I just love the tomatoes. Isn't that stunning?
Yeah.
And they tell the stories of these beautiful pieces. This is the first catalog I've ever wanted to get. My sister and brother-in-law got me like the whole seed, like the full paid, like the one that you pay for versus the one that comes for free in the mail last year. And it's just, it tells stories and it has pictures of practically each and every single. This is okra, pretty sure.
Wow.
Yep. It's red okra. Isn't that like, and they've got pictures of like their kids holding these things up. Let me find you a story that. Okay, I'm just it. So I love it so much that I actually went out and bought a few seeds from them. I bought about 35 packets of seeds for my garden this past year, and I started a lot of them inside, and the ones I started inside for whatever reason failed. But the ones I've started outside have done really well. And trying to find if I can find the story about apples, because it was in this book that I read this entire book. It is a seed catalog.
Wow.
I looked through and I read pretty much every single one of them. Maybe not every single one of them, but close to it. Okay, I can't find the one about apples, which makes me sad. But I can find one about tomatoes. Let me see if I can find the specific tomato that I want to share with us. It's got a story to go with it. You know how as soon as you're looking for a thing, it just disappears?
Mm-hmm.
Well, can't find it right here, but one of the tomatoes I grabbed this year was the Abraham Lincoln tomato. And it is a specific variety from Illinois, actually, that has been saved through a connection of some random person in some random place, saved the seed that used to grow, that Abraham Lincoln used to eat growing up. And it was saved, and they've been able to bring it back into regular production.
Wow.
As Abraham Lincoln's thing. So it's, have you ever heard of Svalbard? Have I ever told you about that? It's a seed vault. It's the seed vault at the North Pole, either Sweden or Norway. And it's where heirloom varieties of seeds are saved to protect the genetic. It's a doomsday vault, pretty much, to protect the genetic diversity of seeds in the world.
Oh, okay.
And so, one of the best examples of it is, I think it was in Afghanistan. There were a bunch of seeds that were sent to Svalbard, to be saved prior to specific bombings that happened. Where if they hadn't been sent and saved, they actually would have been destroyed. And one of the most important things about having genetic diversity in the seeds is that helps you prevent things like the Irish potato famine. Not just for flavor, not just for beauty, but also for, the preservation of life. And there's some really incredible history in which you can figure out where a specific type of thing started based off of the number of varieties that exist in a region. So I don't have a good one that comes right to the top of my mind, but let's think about maybe corn or maize. That's a New World, North American primarily thing. And so you'd expect to find more varieties growing in nature in the New World, North or South America, than anywhere else. Yeah. And then from there, you could even find more specifically where are they growing in, the most intensity. Here, I found one. It wasn't either the tomatoes or the other pieces. But this is something, my parents grew this a few years ago. It's called Celtis. You ever heard of Celtis?
No.
It's a celery stalk with a lettuce head.
Yeah.
Here's their story. The amazing Celtis. The Burpee 1942 catalog called it the most sensational new vegetable. From their half page of customers' rave reviews, Celtis was given to my 4-year-old and she devoured it like she would an ice cream cone. And Celtis is certainly a most unusual vegetable. I served it in various ways to different persons, and everyone found it delicious and commented on its elusive flavor that makes you want more. Delicious cucumber-flavored crisp stalks from ancient China. A very unique lettuce, grown for its giant, crunchy stems that are tasty raw or cooked. The leaves can also be used as greens. This is a totally new type of vegetable for most Americans, although it was introduced from China in the 1840s. They're quite delicious and high in vitamin C. So that's one. And then here's the other piece I'll share from this. And right before I do that, I'll just show Hunter some of the seeds I bought this year.
Oh, wow.
I got cucumbers and onions and poppies and cilantro and kohlrabi. If you haven't had kohlrabi before, check it out. Carrots, delicata squash, beets, purple and green beans, butternut squash, eggplant, peas, parsley, kale, basil, collards, thyme. Didn't really grow. Another version of basil. My tomatoes didn't do well. Neither did my broccoli or peppers or celery. We'll see if I can get something coming out of those. It'll just be a late. I love them. Their catalogs are beautiful. Apples. So my favorite fruit is an apple. Probably my favorite food as a whole. You know that, Hunter. Right? I eat 2 apples a day on average.
Wow.
Yes, even in June do I do that. I always thought they were native to the United States, just given how many apples we have. But it actually
What does 2 apples a day do to the doctor?
Keeps the dentist away as well. Or one might say it starts growing apple trees inside of me. Apples are local to... Do you know what country they're local to?
I don't know.
Tajikistan.
Okay.
The apple originated in Central Asia and has been cultivated there for thousands of years. So it talks about the history of them, the experience of one of their, the people that writes for or corresponds with the, look at this, with Baker Creek, going there, has a quote: "Even if I knew that tomorrow the world would go to pieces, I would still plant my apple tree." That is quoted by Martin Luther.
Okay.
Yes, the Martin Luther posted the 95 Theses.
Yes.
One other piece I want to share about them. They have, and I read this well enough that I remember that this existed. They have a little piece about Johnny Appleseed. Johnny Appleseed was actually a guy named John Chapman. In reality, instead of spreading apple seeds for nutritious fruit, which is kind of the story about him, Chapman was an opportunistic orchardist and successful businessman. I'm going to read a couple paragraphs about him. In the late 1700s, the Ohio Company of Associates offered 100 free acres to any homesteader west of Ohio who could prove permanent residence. In order to prove their commitment to residency, homesteaders needed to plant at least 50 apple trees on their property. Chapman traveled through the West, planting orchards from seed just ahead of pioneer expansion, selling the trees or planted land to homesteaders. Chapman always grew all of his trees from seed. He belonged to a religion that frowned upon the barbaric practice of grafting trees, giving credence to his caricature depiction, carrying around a large sack of apple seeds.
Smart guy.
Yeah. In those days, apples were not grown for eating, but for drinking as hard cider.
Right.
Due to lack of infrastructure and the threat of contaminated water, drinking hard cider was considered more safe for settlers. Most of Johnny's apple trees no longer exist. They were chopped down by axe-wielding federal agents during Prohibition to sever America's source of hard cider. Though the real Johnny Appleseed was more of a businessman than a wayfarer, he truly did travel barefoot, wearing threadbare clothes, but this was because of his religious convictions and personal preference.
Okay.
That comes in the middle of a seed catalog. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
But Hunter, what do you got for us? How are you going to close us off tonight?
The last one, I added a couple based on yours, but who knows if I'll get them. Last one. I have Epic by Connor Kostick. I mentioned this book on our Ready Player One episode.
Okay, yes.
Yeah. This is a book where a human society has all their entire economy is based on an immersive virtual reality video game. And it was written in 2004. Ready Player One was written in 2011, for reference. And in this world, the most powerful people are the ones, who have the most in-game currency and have the best characters in the game, and everyone else has to, grind by killing low-level kobolds and orcs and things. Because there's permadeath. If you die in the game, your character resets entirely. You lose all of your money and all of your possessions, which is disastrous because it would be like your house burning down or something like that. Because all of your everything depends on the in-game currency, and it's sort of a corrupt system. The people at the top, like the main council, who are the most powerful, are not really interested in sharing that power. And it's a really pretty well put together plot. I read this book in like middle school, I think like 8th grade. I think my friend Josh read it. And he gave it to me to read it. And I gave it to another one of our friends to read it because it was at a time when we were like playing RuneScape. And RuneScape is for those who don't know, it's a role-playing game online that all you need is a browser that you can play it, level up your character and all that kind of stuff. And this really scratched that itch in a really creative way. And in my opinion, it is miles better than Ready Player One because it's interesting. It's not full of exhausting references to pop culture. It has a character that grows and thinks about his actions.
Whoa.
How about that? And it's a really fun ride once you get into it. I've read it, I think, 2 or 3 times now. It's part of a series. I haven't actually finished the series. I know I'll finish it eventually, but Epic is really I have a special place for it. Because I read it when I was young, and I reread it again, and I still enjoyed it, which doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
And I'll say one more interesting thing about the world in the story, or maybe 2 more things, then we'll wrap up. But they decide disputes in the game in an arena. So,
okay,
as part of the plot, Eric, I think his name is. I think his name is Eric. He's the main character in the novel. Yeah, with a K, Eric Haroldson. Sorry, not with a C. But they have a dispute about tractors because they farm in the real world, and they need to buy new tractors or something, and the council kind of denies them. And so they have a dispute. They challenge the council to a match in the arena, which, everyone thinks they're going to lose because the council has, really high level characters. But there's a twist where, they don't actually lose. And it's sort of like Eric is very curious about the game. He wants to know about it. He is obsessed with trying to kill a dragon. He's reset like 3 different characters because he keeps trying to kill this dragon. And they eventually figure it out. Sort of like how in Ready Player One, they start out very pretty poor. Wade Watts and co are not the best off, and then, well, I guess just Wade Watts, he's pretty penny pinching because he has to, and then he gets famous and gets more resources, and they're sort of similar. They kind of get more resources and things, but it happens more naturally. And there's also characters created by the game, and there's one, the terrifying villain. You think the villain is the council, and then you find out there's an even more terrifying villain in the game. It's like a character from the game who has figured out how to interface with the virtual reality hardware that they use to influence people in the real world.
Creepy.
Yeah. And there's a big battle at the end. And it's just a lot of fun.
Sounds epic.
It is epic. Well, thank you, Eric. I can't see your face. Your video has...
Yeah, I don't know what's up. I've been trying.
Gone dark. But I had fun. I thank you for bringing good grab bag things. I feel like mine were not as interesting, or I wasn't able to make them as interesting, but I hope it was fun.
I really enjoy this. I want to do this again. I'm wondering if we should try to speed up our pieces so we can get 5 each.
Yeah.
10 minutes, or less than 10 minutes per each.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I think so.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I like the breadth of things. And I think this is a really good thing to come back to.
Definitely.
And listeners, if you have a recommendation of something that we should do a grab bag on, I will gladly talk about something I know nothing about, like I do. So feel free to recommend something to me, and I can try to make it up on the spot.
Or, recommend it.
Talk about Zaba, It's like ABBA, but, from A to Z. It's like Alpha and Omega ABBA. Brings the Z in ABBA. What they say, Zayamia, here we go again. Zamamia, Zazazia. Here we go again. That's all I could think of when you were talking about Zaba.
It's a good album. I still have lots of things left in my hat too.
Oh my goodness, I got so many things in my hat. I think I might have more things in my hat now than when we started.
Yeah, and if you do actually have suggestions for us, I am on Twitter and Mastodon at HDanson. I don't really have any followers, so you could be the first.
Woohoo!
Yeah, to add me.
I am at my kitchen table, dining room table. So if you know where that is, please do not come find me during one of these episodes. That'd be really uncomfortable. But feel free to send me a text. As you know, we are incredibly great at marketing, and
yes.
So share us with your friends, like and subscribe. And since we are definitely not a ratings podcast, don't give us any give us 5 stars.
Yeah.
And on that, I bid you adieu.
Good night. good morning, whenever you're listening.
But for us, it's good night.
Yes. Cheers.